straight down the middle.
It's time for the Golf Show, presented by Cohout and O'Neill Golf Management and the French Lick Resort. The Golf Show takes a weekly look at golf in East Central Indiana and beyond. And now, here's your host, Brian Hammons.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I am Brian Hammons, sitting alongside our producer, Nick Isbell, and welcome to the maiden voyage of the Golf Show, presented by Cohout and O'Neill Golf Management and the French Lick Resort. Now, I guess the first thing I have to do is apologize for the lack of creativity in the naming of this show. You stop and think, okay, let's come up with something cute, Fairway to Heaven or whatever. Yeah, but all those have been taken by bloggers and podcasts, so we're just sticking to the basics. This is the Golf Show. We're going to talk about golf. We'll talk about golf at the national level. We'll talk about golf here at the local level in East Central Indiana, in the Anderson and Muncie area. So we're really excited about this. We're going to be doing this throughout the golf season, and this is our first show. So to get us started, I want to bring in Doc O'Neill, the Chief Operating Officer of Cohout and O'Neill Golf Management, one of our presenting sponsors. And Doc, first of all, thank you for being involved with the Golf Show.
Great to be a part of it, Brian. Thank you very much. Looking forward to a wonderful partnership.
Now, explain to our listeners just exactly what Cohout and O'Neill Golf Management does.
Sure. We Cohout and O'Neill, my partner Matt Cohout and myself, started the company about 10 years ago, Brian. And for the most part, our services are focused on golf, whether it be ownership, leasing, management, operations, consulting, whatever it might be. We also have a financial arm as well, where we provide financial services for the most part in the areas of accounting, payroll, HR, things of that nature. But most of our attention is given to golf. However, we have a great relationship also through Psalms Restaurants, and we do all the financial reporting for Psalms. So we have a pretty broad scope that we actually cover. But my specific attention, Brian, is for the most part on golf.
So tell us which courses that your company represents.
Well, we have 5 currently. We've dealt with about 20 golf courses over the last 10 years. Currently, we own and manage Prairie View Golf Club, an outstanding championship golf course in Carmel. And then we have ownership and management of Woodwind Golf Club in Westfield, Indiana, an outstanding facility and getting better every day. And then we manage and operate Elwood Golf Links in Elwood, which is really a neat story. They closed the golf course down about 5 or 6 years ago. And then we were brought in, Brian, in late 2016 to bring the back nine back to life. So the back nine was open in 17 and 18. And then the original 9, which was a Bill Diddle course built back in the 1920s, it is now going to reopen on June 1st of this year. So as of June 1st, Elwood will have 18 holes again. And then we also we manage and operate Prestwick Country Club in Avon, Indiana. And then we do the maintenance work for a golf course up in Culver, Indiana by the name of Mystic Hills. So that's our attention right now.
So you mentioned the Elwood Golf Links. We're going to be originating the Golf Show from the Elwood Golf Links a few times this summer. We're really looking forward to that. It's a pretty cool little golf course, isn't it?
I'll tell you what, Brian, it is a diamond in the rough. The people who haven't been there before will really be shocked. First of all, the layout's fantastic. The conditions really good, and I think when all the chatter over the last couple of years, anybody that goes there and plays generally walks away with, gosh, that was really pretty good. And I think the people of Elwood, and specifically the mayor and the golf committee and many others in Elwood, are so excited to have golf back in the community, and it's generated a lot of interest. They've got a really nice residential community popping up right now on the golf course. So it's brought a lot of life to the community, and it's a wonderful asset. And the mayor, who's a very forward-thinking gentleman, and the golf committee and the Elwood Redevelopment Commission have done a great job of really promoting their community.
Just so our listeners, since we are focusing on golf in East Central Indiana, what are the price points at Elwood?
Price points are good. For the most part, for a regular 18 holes of golf with golf cart, it's $26. For a senior, it's $23. And then we have various other things for, veterans and firefighters and people of that nature. But it's very affordable. It's probably the best value around. It's nicely priced for a very good quality product.
Yeah, that's a great deal. I can't wait to play that golf course, especially when the back nine opens. Now, let me ask you this, Doc. You've got your finger on the pulse of golf in this state. How healthy is golf in Indiana?
In certain pockets, Brian, it's really good. Others, it's fighting the battle as it has for quite some time. I think if you get outside some of the metropolitan areas, as an example, if you get outside Indianapolis or outside of Fort Wayne or places of that nature, it's a little bit of a battle. So small town Indiana, there isn't the density, there just isn't the population to support all the golf courses. And you take small town Indiana, there might be 5 or 6 golf courses within 10 or 15 miles, and that's just too much golf for the amount of population or the number of golfers that are available. But if you go to Indianapolis and Carmel and Westfield, you've got some private clubs that are just doing extremely well, and then Prairie View's doing extremely well. It's once again a great high championship golf course. And Woodwind, it's the only public golf course in Westfield, and it's doing fine too, and will continue to get better. But I would say, to answer that question, it kind of depends on where you are. But it continues to fight the battle, and probably will so until there's a little bit more of a balance between the number of golf courses and the number of golfers.
Well, Doc, again, I really appreciate your involvement with the golf show. We look forward to talking to you more throughout the season and originating our show from the Elwood Golf Links. So, again, thank you very much, and we really appreciate your support of the golf show.
Looking forward to it, Brian. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
I guess I should probably tell you a little bit about myself if you're not familiar, and there's no reason you should be. My name is Brian Hammons. I spent 21 years at the Golf Channel, started life here in Anderson, Indiana, went to Highland High School, went to Butler University from there, worked at Channel 6 for years, and then did a lot of auto racing, worked for the Indiana Pacers, then at Fox 59, started that newscast as their sports director, and then in 1994 I was lucky enough to go to the Golf Channel and launched the Golf Channel, and was there for 21 years, and now I'm back here in Indiana, and really happy to be with you every Saturday morning on the Golf Show. I guess the best way, until we get some technical issues worked out, to get involved with the Golf Show is to hit me on Twitter. It's at Brian Hammons, and the last name is spelled Hammons. At Brian Hammons on Twitter. If you want to get involved, or if you have any questions to myself or our guests, that's the best way to do it, again, until we get some technical issues ironed out. Now, as you know, next week is Masters Week. And for many of us here in the Midwest, that's the start of the golf season. Yeah, you've been watching golf on television. They've already played the Players' Championship and a lot of other big events. But for a lot of us here in the Midwest, the Masters Week is kind of the start of the golf season because the weather finally is getting better. Today it's supposed to be 70 degrees. I got my clubs in the back of my car. So we're really looking forward to this week. And to help us preview Masters Week is a good friend of mine, Dottie Pepper, 17-time winner on the LPGA Tour, 2 major championships to her credit, and she's now, of course, an analyst on CBS and their coverage of the Masters. Dottie, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Hammer. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Welcome to the maiden voyage of the Golf Show here on WHBU and Muncie Sports.
All right, so tell me about your first 12 minutes.
Well, we spoke to one of our presenting sponsors, so we got to pay the bills first. You got
to pay the bills, man.
Now, let's first, before we talk about the Masters, let's talk about some history that's being made this week at the Augusta National Women's Amateur. The final round of that tournament is being played today. In your opinion, what has that event done for women's golf?
Well, I think if you just look at all of the press hits this week, whether it's talking about that landmark of an event happening today, finishing today, I should say, at Augusta National, or the first major on the women's tour, what has golf been talking about this week? They've been talking about the women's game. And I think that has been, in the very short term, the coolest part of all of this, is that this whole week, there's been some talk about the lead up to the Masters, but it's been mostly about the women's game, and on both levels, with the professional level and the amateur level. And I think that's going to be the start of fantastic conversation that continues.
Can you imagine the pressure those players were under? It was a 72-player field to start the week, and only 30 made the 36. Now, the first 2 rounds were played at the Champions Retreat, a different golf course. It wasn't on Augusta National. Can you imagine the pressure just to make the cut so you get the chance to play Augusta National today?
Well, how about they had an 11-player for 10-spot cut? The poor girl that was the one out. That's pressure. It's the chance to be a first, and all 72 of them were firsts, and whoever comes out on top today is going to be another first, and it's a great thing for the women's game. And I would say too, from a very narrow focus. Now, I went to Furman University of 3,200 undergraduates. We had 3 players in the field. That's incredible. And that kind of excited the nation in Greenville, South Carolina, that we're pulling for these girls. So it's been, I think, it's just a total win for women's golf in general.
Do you think Augusta National will continue to evolve in this way, and maybe someday we see a women's professional major championship played there?
I don't know that you're going to see that, but look at what has happened with Augusta, and it goes back to Bob Jones and Clifford Roberts believing that the amateur part of the game was so important. They started the Asia Pacific Amateur, and that's already turned out a champion like Hideki Matsuyama. And you also have now the Latin America Amateur Championship that they started, 5 years ago, coming up on 6 to be the 6th anniversary this year. And Joaquin Neiman came out of that group. Have yet to have an amateur make the cut that's won that event. But I think this is a natural evolution of what the founders there believed in, and that was amateur golf is a really important part of the game. And I do think it'll continue to evolve. The whole tournament has continued to evolve, but I think the amateur space has been made better by what Jones and Roberts really believed was important.
Now, knowing you the way that I do, I know that you've probably been doing your homework for the Masters for about a month now.
You're exactly right.
Nobody prepares better for a broadcast than Dottie Pepper. She comes in ready to go for any scenario. So with that in mind, what are the storylines heading into the Masters in your opinion?
Well, I don't know if you would put it at the top of the list, but McIlroy has a chance to win the career Grand Slam. The only one missing in his gathering of major championships. Tiger, I think, it certainly is a story, but it's not a story with a question mark like it was last year, not knowing how his body would hold up. I think we've seen now over the course of the last 14 months that with proper rest and recovery, he plays and could be expected to be part of the conversation. Jordan Spieth certainly showing things over the last couple of weeks. Is at a plate, he walks onto the grounds there and seems to be completely re-energized just driving up Magnolia Lane. He was in a quote-unquote slump last year when he came in there and nearly stole it with a big back nine charge. And I think the Europeans are a big story too. The Florida swing, with the exception of Keith Mitchell, the Southern swing, you had a European dominance right in there in the middle. I think that will be part of the story. And if I had to place a bet, which I will not be because we're covering the event, I would put Molinari at the top of my list, followed by Fleetwood, and then Ricky Fowler, still looking for his first major.
Yeah, Ricky Fowler's playing this week at the Valero Texas Open and playing pretty well. He's in contention for the win, as is Jordan Spieth there. And one guy that you failed to mention that I think is the second favorite this week is Dustin Johnson.
Well, yeah, so how about last year when we went in there, he was the world number one and nobody was talking about it, and it's happening again this year. Why is that? He hasn't been a rock star around there, but he quietly goes about his business, and he certainly has all the tools. But right now he's not on my list because if you look at the way he's putting, pure putting stroke, he's got this shut to shove motion going right now where it's inside and shut and blocked. He's putted very poorly over his last 2 starts, and I think Augusta's a pretty tough place to try to get that back on track and have confidence in it.
So who would you consider your favorite if you had to place a bet?
Molinari is at the top of my list.
All right.
And Yes, because I think there mechanically are so few things that can go wrong with his off swing. He's putting it so much better working with Phil Kenyon, and has played well coming in. Third last week, big win at the Arnold Palmer where he shot 64 bogey free on the final round to come from, I think, 5 back. Confidence is riding very, very high.
Is there a dark horse, someone that we should keep an eye on?
Wow. If you could say a 3-time major champion could be a dark horse, I would keep my eye on Brooks Koepka. Didn't play there last year because he was out with that wrist injury, but nobody seems to talk about him, and while he hasn't played great to start this year, if he drives the ball well, I would pay close attention to him.
Well, that would be a great story. One last question out of left field for you, and I was just thinking about this earlier. Are you upset at all that you're not in the Hall of Fame? I mean, your credentials: 17 wins, 2 major champions. And not to say that it won't happen. The Veterans Committee down the road could certainly put you in. They should.
Right.
But if you were a PGA Tour player, you'd be in right now. Right now. Does that upset you at all?
First of all, you're very biased.
I am. I will admit that I am biased.
But Brian, when I left playing in 2004, I knew that my credentials didn't match up to the LPGA's requirement. Now, if the World Golf Hall of Fame and how all of the bodies have come together see to it that I'm on the list again and manage to squeak out the necessary votes, that's fantastic. But I knew what the deal is when I left, so no, I'm not upset about it.
You deserve to be there, and you will be someday. I mean, the same thing happened to Laura Davies. I mean, it took a while, but she got in, so you'll be there, my friend.
She's a much bigger deal on the world golf stage than I ever was.
Well, again, if your credentials were on the PGA Tour, you'd be in right now. 17 wins, 2 majors, your Solheim Cup record. But, again, I'm biased. But
you're biased.
Hey, thank you.
And I love you.
Thank you very much for participating in this maiden voyage of the golf show, and have a great week at Augusta National.
I enjoyed it, and I look forward to hanging with you again on another Saturday morning.
Perfect. Thank you. The great Dottie Pepper, a great friend of mine, worked with her alongside with her with some LPGA broadcasts for several years on the Golf Channel, and one of the best analysts in all of sports, not just golf, in all of sports, and nobody works harder at her craft than Dottie Pepper. We'll be back with a lot more. You're listening to The Golf Show on WHBU and Muncie Sports Radio.
Cohout and O'Neill Golf Management is Central Indiana's premier golf management company, providing management and consulting services to some of the top courses in the state. But that's not all. The Cohout and O'Neill Caddy program has sent 10 high school caddies to college on full rides to IU and Purdue through the Chick Evans Caddy Scholarship, the most of any operation in the state in the last 5 years. For more information on the Caddy program, visit cohoutandoneil.com.
Yo, we driving, yo. We living our best life and my car smells fresh. Yeah, but we weren't always thriving, it was you, girl.
I told you so.
Who pointed out that smell? Now it's all fun, the odor's gone. Febreze car works so well, come on, keep driving, let's go.
Oh boy, your car smells
Febreze car, yeah, let's go. That's right. No more odors in my ride, now let's go.
Oh yeah, we made it so nice.
Febreze car, keep riding, let's go. And now the world can say,
Breathe happy, Febreze.
la 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 la.
It's a Pete Dye masterpiece, the Pete Dye course at French Lick Resort. Pete says its location on one of the highest points in Indiana makes it special.
The long views, you can see maybe 20 and 30 miles from many of the fairways and many of the tees and greens, and you can see it in 360 degrees.
Donald Ross's Hill Course put French Lick on the golf map more than 100 years ago. It's where Walter Hagen won the 1924 PGA Championship, and the place where today's Symetra Tour ladies battle each year.
It's the ambience around it that makes the golf course.
Combine our many resort amenities with legendary golf, and you have a getaway like no other. French Lick Resort is the home of the Senior LPGA Championship, won in 2018 by World Golf Hall of Famer Laura Davies. Play the courses champions play. Plan your trip now, online at FrenchLick.com.
State Farm, Robert here.
Robert, somebody burned down my she shed.
No one burned down your she shed, Cheryl.
Oh, really, Victor? Because my she shed's burning up in the backyard.
Your she shed was struck by lightning, Cheryl.
Robert, does State Farm cover my she shed?
What's a she shed?
She turned our shed into her hideaway, Robert.
Oh, yeah, that's covered.
You hear that, Victor? I'm getting a new she shed.
Can we stop saying she shed now?
Go with the one that's here to help life go right. State Farm. Talk to an agent today.
Hi, I'm Brian Hammons. Golf can be frustrating for both beginners and accomplished players. If you want to eliminate that frustration and really enjoy the game, take lessons, and not from just anybody. Go to the Anderson Country Club. You don't need to be a member to take lessons. Director of Golf Brian Garrett and head PGA professional Zach Dreyer will help you achieve your goals in golf, whether you're just beginning or trying to make the tour. To set up a lesson, go to AndersonCountryClub.net.
At Menards, we're committed to saving you big money on home improvement, and that's why nobody beats our prices. Check out Menards' huge selection of wildlife products. Attract many types of birds to your yard with Nature's Own Country Mix wild bird food. Right now, get a 40-pound bag of Nature's Own wild bird food for only $8.88. Find these and other great deals going on now through April 6th during Menards Construction Sale.
Save big money at Menards.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. But not with ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology actively invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So, while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you, the needle in the haystack.
Try ZipRecruiter now for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/try. That's ZipRecruiter.com/try.
I hit it hard, man. So far, man. No laying up, no holding back. Ain't afraid of nothing, it's a natural fact. I hit it long, man. I hit it hard.
If we had a prize package to give away, I would give it away to anybody that could name the singer of that song. It's obviously a golf-related song. Nick, I know you're not a golf fan.
I'm not a golf fan. That I got nothing.
I'll give you a hint. He's built a little bit like you.
Built a little bit like me.
Yeah.
Okay, so short and fat. Let's go with. I don't know. I don't know.
That was John Daly.
John Daly, really?
That was
Wow.
John Daly. It's actually not too bad. He
No.
fancies himself as somewhat of a country singer. Speaking of country singers, something went viral this week that I thought was a classic story involving Jake Owen, a country singer, and Phil Mickelson. Just to give you a little back story here, Jake Owen is, as I mentioned, a country singer and a good one. I like him. He's also a very good friend of Jordan Spieth. So, and he's Jordan's partner in the AT&T Pro-Am at Pebble Beach every year. And so Jake went to Jordan's wedding a few months ago. And at the reception, he saw Phil Mickelson. And I'll let Jake pick up the story from here.
I did give Phil Mickelson a lot at Jordan Spieth's wedding. Jordan got married in November, and Phil was there. And it was the day after he played Tiger. I had a few cocktails, and I saw him across the room, and I was like, I got to go tell this guy what I think. So I walked over to him. I was like, hey, Phil, you owe me $29.99. I was like, for wasting 4 hours of my life with the greatest golf I've ever seen. You guys hyped this whole thing up about this big match. You guys couldn't even make 3 birdies between the two of you. I want my $29.99 back and apologize to me for some shit off.
Oh, my God.
And he pulls out a wad out of his thing, and he grabs $100 bill. He's like, yeah, I won 90,000 of these yesterday.
My
He
God.
goes, take 100 and go fish your golf.
What?
Yeah, right to my
This
face.
can't be real.
I swear.
Oh.
That's a classic story. That's a classic Phil Mickelson story, and that was from the Barstool Sports podcast from earlier this week featuring Jake Owen. And Phil Mickelson did win 90,000 of those $100 bills in that match with Tiger Woods. So, all right, now let's talk the PGA Tour and bring in my friend Will Haskett from PGA Tour Radio, who is calling the action this week at the Valero Texas Open, the final stop before they go to Augusta National. Will, how you doing down there?
Good. I was hoping I could win the prize pack there for John Daly, but you got to the answer before I could get on there and claim my prize.
Well, if we had a prize pack, but we don't have one at this point. This is our first show. We have to take things slowly.
You got to build up the inventory. I get it.
So Si-Woo Kim with a 4-shot lead heading to the final 2 rounds at the Valero Texas Open. He's already in the Masters, so he doesn't have that pressure of trying to win to be the final player into the Masters field. Rode the strength of an ace yesterday, right?
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, not just that shot, but he was getting up and down from everywhere. It was very much a Si-Woo Kim type of 36 holes. And people say, oh, big lead, it's the largest 36-hole lead on the PGA Tour this year. What do we expect from someone like that? And it's like, well, it's just kind of typical Si-Woo Kim. Like when all of a sudden he shows up and puts it all together for 1 week, he looks unbeatable at times. I mean, it was the way that he won the Players' Championship in complete control, and then he can go on a 5-month stretch where he's and also ran, in almost every single week. He's one of the hardest prodigious talents to predict because when it comes together, it's amazing, but it doesn't come together as often as you would expect for somebody who's in the Masters and who has risen to be, one of the top 50 players in the world.
Every year when the Valero Texas Open rolls around, I can't help but think back to, I can't remember what year it was, but I was on the call there with Kurt Byram when Kevin Na made a 16 on the 9th hole. And the funny story about that was we were back and forth at the Golf Channel trying to get the PGA Tour to allow us to put microphones on players. And they finally relented, and the first time we were going to do it, we put a microphone on Kevin Na in round 1 at the Valero Texas Open. And he makes a 16 on the 9th hole. In fact, the PGA Tour put it out on Twitter this week, looking back at that, and with my call and Kurt Byram's call. I think Billy Ray Brown was following him at the time. And it was that I became such a fan of Kevin Na, the way he handled that 16. And it was actually pretty funny because he and his caddy were talking. I don't have any idea what I made, and they went back and trying to count it. Anyway, that's a side story. Every time the Valero rolls around, I can't help but think of Kevin Na on that 16.
Yeah, and this is actually my first trip down here to TPC San Antonio, so it's one of the rare tour stops I've never been to, and so it's kind of seeing some of those areas that have led to that carnage. I mean, there have been more triples at this golf tournament than any other non-Florida stop on the PGA Tour, and I always say non-Florida because you got so much water down there at PGA National, Bay Hill, the TPC Sawgrass, some of those courses. But the third most triples on the PGA Tour for a golf course that really doesn't have a whole lot of penalty areas. There's not a lot of water on this golf course, but there's that thicket, there's that scrub, that brush when you get it off the beaten path where you're battling rocks and overgrowth and all these other sorts of things. They've cleared out a lot of the stuff off the fairways compared to when this course was originally built 9 years ago. But it's been there's definitely some places where if you get a little bit squirrely, you get a little bit sideways, you can make a big number. But, yeah, that Kevin Na story is legendary around here.
Well, there were 17 players starting the week playing at the Valero Texas Open that are exempt for the Masters next week, which is a pretty good number considering a lot of players don't like to play the week before a major championship. Why do you think that is? Because it doesn't appear that golf course is a real good prep week for the Masters, if you will.
Yeah, I think it's really individual choice in terms of whether you want to have the week off of reps. Like Ricky Fowler's a prime example. I've been with Ricky for the last 2 days. He skipped the match play and has had 2 weeks off, and so just sort of needed the mental tune-up to just have competitive rounds and going through the process to get ready. So he would have probably played no matter what the golf course was because that's just kind of where he was in terms of his prep going into the season's first major. But unlike the Houston Open, which has occupied this spot for the last several years, where you had a golf course that was specifically set up to try, and again, no golf course can actually replicate what these guys are going to face at Augusta National, but at least tried to put together a golf course that was going to give a lot of similar shot types. You're absolutely right. So I think it has just more to do with the physical and mental reps that these guys want to be in, is that some guys just like to play the week before a major and some guys don't in terms of their prep. But I will give the folks at the Valero Texas Open a lot of credit, is that the golf course is set up a little bit more like a lead-in, like what the Houston Open was compared to what it has been, simply because of the time of the calendar. You've got more overseed, it's a little bit lusher. The rough is cut a little bit shorter than it has been in years past. So you've got, these lies that you can play with off the fairway. I think the one thing that's going to be interesting to see how the players discuss it going into the weekend, because we're supposed to get rain today, there's an 80% chance of storms, is that the greens have been pretty slow. And at least at Houston, they were able to get those things moving, not at Augusta speed, but at least speed where these guys are putting on surfaces that are going to give them a little bit of a tune-up. With all the overseed here this week, they just have not been able to get these greens as fast as I think they would have liked.
Jordan Spieth, after the first 2 rounds, is tied for second place at 8 under par, 4 shots behind Siwoo Kim. How important is this weekend for Jordan as he tries to build some momentum heading to Augusta?
I think it's massive, not necessarily for what he's finding in his swing. And it's been a big week in terms of Jordan's openness. He was on the No Laying Up podcast, which got a lot of run in terms of him dissecting, and I thought, really paralysis by analysis where his golf swing is at this point in time. But he claims he's getting closer. I don't think the first 2 days do anything to dissuade us from believing that he's getting closer to something. But if you look at his numbers on the PGA Tour this year, his first and second round scoring averages are actually pretty good. It's his third round scoring average. He's almost dead last on the PGA Tour, that and on Sundays when he's able to make it there. So it's been his weekend struggles from just a simple scoring average standpoint that are the things to sort of take a look at. So I think, can he maintain a similar level of play? He doesn't have to win the golf tournament. I don't even think he would love to win his state's open. But at the same point in time, in the grand scheme of the process, he just needs to string 4 good rounds of golf together. So if Siwoo Kim runs away and hides, but Jordan Spieth's still able to put 2 more rounds in the 60s or a couple of under par rounds together today and tomorrow, I think that validates the work that he's been doing, and then he immediately becomes probably a top 10 favorite going into next week.
Hey, let's talk about Adam Schenk for a second. He's tied for second at 8 under par as well after 2 rounds, and he's an Indiana player from Vincennes, played at Purdue. Are you familiar with his game, and is he the type of player that could win on the PGA Tour?
I think it's a process that's coming along for him. It's one of those things, you get your status, you get your card, and then what do you do in that sort of first year as you're making your schedule, you're figuring out where things fit. But he's been a guy that has risen up the board a few times this year, and then it's what can you do on Saturday and Sunday, because for those that aren't aware about, how the PGA Tour is structured, especially when it comes to FedEx Cup points, is in the last couple of years they've shifted it to where they really value top 20 finishes. And so for a guy like Adam Schenk, he's in position to win the golf tournament, but, well, that's, probably goal number 1. Goal number 2 is, can he just put together 2 more good rounds? Because the last thing you want to do is take yourself, especially with a leaderboard that is bunched outside of Siwoo Kim. I mean, between second and last in the field, you're only separated by 7 shots right now. So, you could see a lot of volatility on a moving day today. I think that's the next step in the process for a young guy that's made his way onto the PGA Tour like Adam Schenk is, taking advantage of those opportunities, but also continuing to do the good work that you did on Thursday and Friday on the weekend so you can maximize those big finishes.
You've been out on the PGA Tour a lot this year with PGA Tour Radio, and obviously you follow it from week to week. What would you consider the biggest storylines on the PGA Tour this year?
Sadly, it's stuff that I don't think is related to golf. I mean, Matt Kuchar has given us 2 weeks of unfortunate storylines between his dust-up with Sergio last week, the Caddy Gate situation from the hangover from Mayakoba fall of last year, and then all the rules stuff, which I think has been a little bit petulant at times with some of the players. I think we've made too much out of some changes, and then there's been, a war of words, I think, in social media and other places. It's been a learning process. I laughed the other day, Brian. I mean, I'm an Indianapolis resident. I play my golf at the Fort, and my men's club sent out a note the other day about here's all the rules changes and how to apply them. And I'd actually forgotten that I was going to have to play golf by these rules because it's been talked about so much in the professional game that I was just sort of tired of it. I was like, can we at least run our course with the new rules changes? So I'm hoping that a great players championship really got us talking about golf. And as Rory is probably the best player in the world right now in terms of who's playing the best as we get to the Masters next week, that this run of great tournaments, 5 in a row in 5 straight months, sort of takes away from the distraction that was the first part of the year, because I don't really think we've talked enough about actual golf in a time when the depth at the top of the game, I think, is better than it's ever been.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up the rules, because we're going to talk more about the new rules with Zach Dreyer from the Anderson Country Club coming up in the next segment. But that brings me to another question. Do you think we're getting closer because of all this brouhaha that we're hearing from players about the new rules and going back to the anchored putting? Are we getting closer to the PGA Tour creating their own rules? I mean, you stop and think about it. It's the only professional league only professional sports organization that doesn't have their own rules. They're ruled by an amateur governing body. Do you think we're getting closer to the PGA Tour finally saying, okay, these are our rules?
Not if you believe what Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, has been saying. I mean, they say that they're partners with the USGA and the RNA and that they're going to continue to work within the structure of those rules. I think if the players continue to have problems with certain applications of those rules, then you're going to see that a little bit. I think the USGA at times, while their communication can be a little bit weak and at least in terms of the feedback that they're sort of taking, that's probably put them behind the eight ball in terms of some of these controversies. Everybody has to remember that they're making these rules for everybody. So when all of a sudden the flag stick in on the green rule becomes dissected by players and we're going back and forth, that really hasn't been a controversial one. It was one of the more talked about ones. From a pace of play standpoint for an amateur like you or me, Brian, it makes a ton of sense for the USGA to be able to do it. Now, if is an advantage, should we look, is it changing statistics and how we measure putting in professional golf over the eras? I don't necessarily know. I think these guys are sort of figuring it all out. But there are just elements of it that I don't think we're going to see a difference. And the reason why I say that is I just feel like we've gotten a lot of the stuff off of our chest. And by we, I mean these professionals out here. And eventually everything just adapts. Everybody changes. Everybody gets used to stuff. And we just sort of keep going with it. Rules have changed before, and the PGA Tour hasn't found a way or needed a way to go about it. I think once we get through the end of the season, we're going to look back and be like, oh, yeah, that was kind of funny how everybody had a problem with the rules, and now we're working within them.
All right, we just have a few seconds left, but I want to give you a chance to promote your podcast. Tell us about what it's about and where we can find it.
Yeah, Data Geeks Unite. It's called the Perfect Number Podcast. I think with all of the golf content that was out there, I wanted to create something last year that kind of fit a void, if there was such a thing, in the world of the golf content and the landscape. And so it's really dedicated to technology, stats, analytics, the entire revolution that there is. Golf has more ways, especially at the PGA Tour level and the professional level, of tracking how good these guys are with their statistics. And so almost every week we try and do things around the game of golf that does that. So it's called the Perfect Number Podcast. You can find it anywhere podcasts are available. TuneIn, iTunes, Stitcher, all those different places. So would appreciate the love, and we've got a lot of people out around the state of Indiana that are listening and hopefully getting into the statistical revolution like I have.
Well, I appreciate you spending some time with us on our first golf show, which was so creatively named by me. Thank you for your time, and we'll hear you later on today on the PGA Tour Radio.
Thanks, Brian. Good luck.
Thank you. Will Haskett, again, you'll hear him later today. I think they go on the air at noon on PGA Tour Radio, and they do such a great job. You wouldn't think that golf is a friendly sport for radio, but they do such a good job, and it's fun to listen to. All right, we'll be back with more. You are listening to The Golf Show on WHBU and Muncie Sports Radio.
If you want to take your golf game to the next level, or if you're just taking up the sport, see Tom Harris at the Delaware Country Club in Muncie. The former Indiana PGA Professional of the Year guarantees that you'll improve, either with one-on-one lessons or through his popular women's clinics or the junior golf program. And if you need clubs, Tom can custom fit you from driver to putter using all the latest technology like TrackMan 4. For more information, go to TomHarrisGolf.com or stop by the Delaware Country Club at 510 South Country Club Road in Muncie.
Indeed knows finding the right hire takes time away from your business.
Hiring a qualified data engineer felt like a second job.
More job seekers use Indeed than any other site, so there's no better place to find someone with the skills you're looking for.
I needed someone with a master's in computer science and database experience.
Plus, Indeed screener questions help you find your shortlist fast.
Now I'm back to having just one job.
Get a $50 credit to give your first job posting premium placement at Indeed.com/credit. Terms, conditions, quality standards, and usage limits apply. Additional terms online.
It's a Pete Dye masterpiece, the Pete Dye course at French Lick Resort. Pete says its location on one of the highest points in Indiana makes it special.
The long views, you can see many 20 and 30 miles from many of the fairways and many of the tees and greens, and you can see it in 360 degrees.
Donald Ross's Hill Course put French Lick on the golf map more than 100 years ago. It's where Walter Hagen won the 1924 PGA Championship, and the place where today's Symetra Tour ladies battle each year.
It's the ambience around it that makes the golf course.
Combine our many resort amenities with legendary golf, and you have a getaway like no other. French Lick Resort is the home of the Senior LPGA Championship, won in 2018 by World Golf Hall of Famer Laura Davies. Play the courses champions play. Plan your trip now, online at FrenchLick.com.
From the moment her granddad
put her face on the package. Little Debbie's been the sweetheart of American snackage. And so when you're out shopping with a family to please, grab some Little Debbie treats for spontaneous parties. Oh, and breakfasts and lunches. They make great road trip food. Grab all your favorite varieties for any time you're in the mood. From our family to yours, we take pride in what we make. So hit the store and unwrap a smile, because today we bake.
Hi, I'm Brian Hammons. If you're looking for a private, affordable, fun golf course, check out the Anderson Country Club. It's one of the oldest courses in Indiana, and pace of play is never a problem. It's a charming, old-school club with modern amenities, like brand-new golf carts and a new bar and casual dining area to go along with the formal dining room. It's a great place to create memories with family and friends. To learn more, go to AndersonCountryClub.net and click on the membership tab.
And now, an ad from Dad.
All right, what do we got here? Save money on car insurance when you bundle home auto with Progressive. Save money on car insurance. You ready? Save money on car insurance when you bundle home and auto with Progressive. That sounded pretty good, don't you think? I could do it one more time, but I think that's... What do you say? Nailed it, right? Nailed it.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Cohout and O'Neill Golf Management is Central Indiana's premier golf management company, providing management and consulting services to some of the top golf courses in the Hoosier State. Courses like Prairie View Golf Club in Carmel, Woodwind Golf Club in Westfield, Crestwood Country Club in Avon, Mystic Hills Golf Club in Culver, and here locally, Elwood Golf Links in Elwood. If your favorite golf course is searching for a new direction in leadership and management, go with the best. Visit CohoutandO'Neill.com.
I need somebody help, not just anybody help. You know I need someone help.
Yes, we all need help when it comes to these new rules in golf that became effective on January 1st. And to help us explain what these new rules are and how they affect us, I'm bringing in Zach Dreyer now, the head professional at the Anderson Country Club. Zach, thanks for getting up early and joining us.
Hey, no problem. Glad to be here.
So you're the expert. Take us through the rules changes that took effect on January 1.
Well, there's a lot of new rules coming from 2019, and I don't know if we'll have time to go through every single one because there are a lot.
Yeah, just the ones that really are going to affect us.
Yeah, I got you. And in a general sense, the 2019 rules are going to be more in plain language, a lot easier to read. If you get your hands on a rule book for 2019, there's a lot more diagrams and pictures to help the golfer understand the new rules. And I think in a general sense, the idea from the USGA and the R&A to get one rules book between the two is to help speed up play and help make the game easier to understand and more fun for all golfers. So there are a lot of new rules that are very visible, things you're going to see on TV if you watch the PGA Tour, like dropping the ball from knee height, taking a relief in a relief area. They're going to be talking about penalty areas that are a lot more easy. So some of the main things are leaving the flag stick in, another big one that a lot of people see. I think some of the main ones that people really are going to benefit from is the easier, I guess, the easier way to explain penalty areas and how to take drops and what a penalty entails. So, a couple big things would be, having a ball in a penalty area, which used to be called a water hazard, a lateral hazard, or a regular water hazard. They are now a lot more lenient on what you can do in those areas. So say your ball comes to rest inside a red stake area, usually called a water hazard. We would know that we're not allowed to ground our club. We're not allowed to take, we used to be allowed to take opposite of the line relief. Some of those rules have been eliminated, but now if your ball is in that area, you are allowed to ground your club. You're allowed to remove loose impediments, sticks, leaves, sand, rocks, anything like that. You can basically play from a penalty area just as if you would any other area on the course. You can treat it like any other shot, which is big and a lot easier to explain. Some of the other ones, like leaving the flag stick in, I think that the USGA and R&A decided that it was not a real big
advantage or disadvantage to a golfer to leave the flagstick in when they're putting on the green. And it also helps speed up play a lot. I know if you listen to Bryson DeChambeau or some of those guys on tour, they're doing a lot of testing as to whether it's an advantage or not. But I think the overall rule is that there's no real distinct advantage to leaving the flagstick in when you putt, or disadvantage depending on which way it's leaning. Couple other rules that have changed. You are now allowed to take relief out of a bunker from an unplayable lie if you decide that you don't want to play from a bunker, like yours truly doesn't like to sometimes. But you can now take under two penalty strokes, take your ball out of the bunker and play from behind, which is an advantage for those people, like I said, that don't like to play. They're some newer golfers, that sort of thing. Trying to think here, a couple other ones that would be.
Well, I'll just tell you this. I'll just tell you this. As a broadcaster, we don't like it when the USGA makes you change your vernacular. You've been calling it a water hazard or a hazard for years, and now it's a penalty area. I guarantee you that's tripped up a lot of broadcasters so far this year because when we have to change our vernacular, we don't like that. Hey, do you like these rule changes, and are there any other rules that you would like to see changed?
Yeah, I think generally, like I said, at a 10,000-foot view, I do like the rules changes. It's going to take, like you said, with some of the vernacular, the penalty area. If you watched the match play last week, it is now tied instead of all square. I'm not sure why they did.
I hate that.
I know. I don't know why they decided to change that. Again, I think it's going to be one of those things that, right now when they're fresh and new for us diehard golfers who've been playing a long time, it's going to be weird and it's kind of annoying when you change that. But give it a couple years and we all get used to it. I personally think overall that there will be a lot of people will like the new rules in a general sense. The one thing that I still battle with, and I still don't understand why rules haven't changed, is the playing a ball from a fairway divot. I know that's been one that people talked about for a while, but I don't understand why someone should be penalized for a good shot. If your ball finds the fairway and happens to roll into a divot or a spot that's not marked ground under repair, that definitely should be, that you are not allowed relief from that. Kind of something that I hope gets changed in the future, and I don't understand. I understand if your ball's in the rough or in a penalty area or a bunker or something, you should have to play it as it lies because you obviously didn't hit a good shot, but you shouldn't be penalized for a good shot.
I agree with. I mean, you can repair spike marks on the green now. Why can't you get relief from a divot?
Exactly. Yeah. Another one that I didn't talk about, new rules change, that I really like is being able to repair spike marks or animal marks or anything on the green that you weren't usually allowed to. But yeah, like I said, there's the definition of your ball being embedded now has changed. If it's an embedded ball, they say if any part of that ball is below the surface of the ground, then it is considered embedded. And I think one of the reasons they haven't changed the fairway divot rule is because there's a little bit of, what is the definition of being in a divot? Is it some are very obvious, some that have been grown over. So I think that's kind of what's holding them back. But if they use that vernacular for the divot and the fairway, say if any part of your ball is below the surface of the ground, it should be free relief. So I hope that's something that changes in the future.
All right, we've just got a couple of minutes left, Zach. Just tell us what's going on at Anderson Country Club. Course in good shape, ready to go now that the weather's breaking?
Oh, yeah. I'm actually sitting here in our new bar, our newly renovated bar right now, looking out at the putting green, the first tee. We've got our first golf of the day going off. The course is in great shape for this time of year. It's still a little soggy with the rain and some of the weather we've got, but other than that, I played 9 holes myself yesterday. The greens are running great. Our superintendent, Duke, I saw him just fixing all the bunkers, getting the tee boxes mowed. So we're really excited for a good start of the 2019 season. We do have a lot of new members that are joining here, and it's great to see some familiar faces and some new faces. And let's hope the 2019 season is as promising as it started off to be.
You got the Saturday Choose Up going off in just a little while, don't you?
Oh yeah, we've got 3 tee times at 10 o'clock. I can't wait to get some out there. I know we've got some new people playing in it, so it's always a good time. I like to join that group whenever I get the chance to.
Zach, I appreciate you joining us today and helping to explain some of the new rules that took effect on January 1st, some that I'm sure that will be ignored here early in the part of the season. But, again, thank you for joining us on this first show.
Hey, you're welcome. I'm glad to be on anytime. Thanks for having me.
Zach Dreyer, the head golf professional at the Anderson Country Club. Well, that's we're running out of time. That will do it for the first The Golf Show, brought to you by Cohout and O'Neill and the French Lick Resort. I'd like to thank our guests, Doc O'Neill, Dottie Pepper, Will Haskett, and Zach Dreyer. And thank you for listening. We'll be back again next week on The Golf Show on WHBU Anderson and Muncie Sports Radio.
Cohout and O'Neill Golf Management is a true friend of golf. They not only provide management and consulting services to some of the top courses in the state, Cohout and O'Neill courses host some of the most prestigious golf events in Indiana as well, including numerous Indiana Opens, state amateurs, and the boys and girls high school state finals. If you want to take your course to the next level, go with the team at Cohout and O'Neill. For more information, visit cohoutandoneill.com.
This is the sound of ordering the new DQ Chicken and Waffles basket.
It's 2 chicken and waffles baskets.
But this is the sound of the drive there.
Chicken and waffles gonna eat it up. Dip my chicken fried waffles in the syrup cup. Oh yeah, chicken and waffles gonna eat it up. Dip my chicken fried waffles in the syrup cup. Chicken and
The new DQ Chicken and Waffles basket with 4 crispy strips, sweet Belgian waffles, fries, and syrup. Yeah, that sounds like DQ.
DQ. Happy tastes good.
Play legendary golf at French Lick Resort, the only place in the country where you can play courses by 2 Hall of Fame designers on the same property. Our Pete Dye and Donald Ross courses offer 2 very different challenges. Experience them both and save with our Hall of Fame package. Our 2 historic hotels are unique as well. Cap it off with a fun visit to the French Lick Casino. Check us out online at FrenchLick.com. Bring a group and save even more. Play legendary golf this season at French Lick Resort.
At Menards, we're committed to saving you big money on home improvement, and that's why nobody beats our prices. Check out Menards' huge selection of wildlife products. Attract many types of birds to your yard with Nature's Own Country Mix wild bird food. Right now, get a 40-pound bag of Nature's Own wild bird food for only $8.88. Find these and other great deals going on now through April 6th during Menards Construction Sale.
Save big money at Menards.
Let's think about customization presented by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Liberty Mutual customizes your auto insurance so you only pay for what you need. So why aren't more things in life customizable? Like, why do I have to pay a full gym membership when I don't even use all the equipment? Like the rowing machine. I don't know about you, but I'm not doing a ton of manual lake travel these days.
Go to libertymutual.com for a customized quote and you could save.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Coverage is underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Equal housing insurer.
Hi, I'm Brian Hammons. If you're tired of driving a half hour or longer to buy your golf equipment or apparel, don't. You don't have to be a member to shop at the Anderson Country Club's golf shop. They carry great clothing lines like Adidas, Nike, Under Armour, and Puma, and top-of-the-line clubs from TaylorMade, Callaway, and Titleist. And if you think you're saving money by driving to the big box stores, you're not. So save the gas and stock up on all your golf needs at the Anderson Country Club at 602 North Shore Boulevard in Anderson.
How do you want to feel today? Choose your mood with new St. Ives Hydrating Face Mist, made with 100% natural grapefruit extract. Spritz the vibrant scent of grapefruit for an instant boost of happy. Yeah! This moisturizing mist gets you glowing with happy vibes to brighten your day. Get hydrated skin in all the feels, anytime, anywhere. New St. Ives Hydrating Face Mist. Turn up the glow.
Ready for a deal on same-day delivery? Time for a Target run. Now you can have Target run to you when you start your free 2-week trial of Ship Today. Same-day delivery shops the cart you create and delivers it fast, so you can fill up your fridge with your phone. It's easy. Get more delivered same day and enjoy a 2-week trial free. Learn more at target.com/shipped. That's SHIPT. Target run and done.